X-Men comic book fans. D Square here again. We're going to be doing another Hoxpox comic review, this time with Powers of 10 number 2. Now, this Powers of 10 series does keep with the same format, just like with Powers of 10 number 1, where we touched upon the 4 different time periods of the X-Men universe. So House of X really has one singular focus of time or concept, but in the Powers of 10, we of course visit the beginning years of the X-Men, called Year 1, where Moira and Charles first come together. Moira shares her secret with Charles, and then they go from there. We get to see that continued here with Moira and Xavier going to visit Magneto. And that is definitely an interesting exchange, and it's great to see how they all come together. Then, of course, we go to the next timeline, which is the world. And we've seen a lot of this already in House of X 1 and 2. This is the timeline where Xavier is running around with the helmet. They're all on Krakoa, and they're making a deal with the humans. So we get to see a little bit more of that here. Remember, in the last issue, we saw that Charles was working with not only Magneto, but Mystique and Toad and also Sabretooth, and he's the reason they stole that information, Tony Stark and Reed Richards' information, and she has given up the information to Xavier. So we saw they're all working together, so we get to touch base on that just a little bit more and see how they react, and even learn a little bit more about what this information is, which is great. Then, of course, we go to the third timeline, which is the war. This is the 100 years of the X-Men, where we met Rasputin and Cardinal. We also met Nimrod, as well as a host of other mutants that looked like Wolverine, Magneto, Zorn. So we see them talking about what's going on in that portion of the timeline. So that is also very interesting as well. We don't quite get as much Rasputin and Cardinal as we did in the last issue, but it definitely makes sense and it's interesting. And then finally, we go to the Ascension time period. This is the 1,000 years after the Year 1 of X-Men, where we have Nimrod the Greater working with, what looks to be Omega Sentinel or some sort of offshoot of that. And we see that, they have put things into action that really leads to just a really crazy event. You really don't understand exactly why they're doing what they're doing in this Ascension period, but it does get explained a little bit, and boy, is it crazy. And if you're new to comics or new to this series in general, don't worry, guys. People like me that have been following this stuff for years still don't understand. So don't feel left out. I'm going to go ahead and give this issue an 8.5 out of 10. I know I've scored the other books at 9s and 10, and this is still a great book with great artwork, great writing, of course, by Jonathan Hickman. You should definitely go out and get this book today. It just doesn't have the weight that the other issues have had, and that's really to be, it's understandable because they're building this world up, and that's still happening here. You still get a whole big chart that's explaining these societies that are in the Ascension period. So we're still getting a little bit of a world building, but we are looking more into the situation in this issue. So again, definitely interesting, just not as impactful as the other issues were, and certainly not as revealing as House of X number 2, where we learned that Moira was a mutant with this crazy incarnation powers. But again, still enjoyable. So that's going to do it here for our review of Powers of 10 number 2 today. Please be sure to check out the channel for other videos. Make sure you're hitting that notification bell. Please subscribe if you like the content, and of course like. That is always helpful, and I would love to interact with you in the comics. We also have a House of D podcast. Episode 2 of that podcast has already been uploaded to the channel. Me and Volsker, we talk about the House of X stuff. We also talk about other geeky subjects, and it's a really great perspective because I'm a learned nerd and he's what you may consider a normie or a newbie, so I get to explain a lot of stuff to him. It's a lot of fun. I hope you check us out. But until next time, guys, Peace and love. Have a great day.